Okay then guys, so welcome to my first YouTube video. We're going to be looking at selecting elements of JavaScript today. As far as I know, there are 4 ways you can select elements of JavaScript, and they are listed here. So first one, and the most common, is get element by ID. You can get the elements by their class name, tag name, or their name, usually in forms as well. So we're just going to quickly about HTML tag that has all of these, just so we know what we're talking about. So the input, that is the tag name, so you can select it by the tag name. The ID, you can select it by that ID as well. You can also select it by their class, which can be anything. And we can select it by the name as well, so that would be username or anything. So we can select this element in 4 ways. ID would be the best way because it is the fastest as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to select some elements today just to see how it works. I'm going to be using the Chrome console to view the elements that we've selected. We get a lot of junk in here from JSFiddle, I don't know why. But usually to view what we've got, I would use console.log. But as soon as we've got a debug thingy here, we can use this. That means we don't get any of that distraction stuff from JSFiddle. So we're going to use console.debug. It's basically the same as log. Anyway, so let's first of all start off by selecting the element. I'm going to select it by the ID first. So let's do console.log. Document.get elements by ID. It's going to be test. Okay. Console.debug, of course. Okay, so now you can see we've got our element here. It's highlighted up there as well, so we can start modifying this element, even though we're not really going to in this video. We've selected the element by the ID. Okay, so we can select it by the class as well, which is what we're doing now. So we'll do get elements by class name. And it's going to be something. Okay, so we get a list in here because obviously there could be multiple classes on the page, so it's expecting to get more than one. You can see we've got our first one in here, so to actually select this one we would have to put a 0 on the end. Because that's the index of this one here. So if we log that now, you can see that we've got our original result. Using the class name method, we can get this one by the tag name as well. By tag name, it's going to be inputs. I'll take that away. This is going to be the same result as this one. So we're getting the same one, and of course if we add our index on the end. We're going to be getting the same result, and lastly we can select it by the name as well. So it's going to be the only one that doesn't return list is the ID, because IDs are unique on the page, so there should only be one anyway. But everything else is going to return a node list, which is basically an array in English. So it's by name, username. Same thing again. Of course, I'm not going to do that again, but there's our result in there. If we add another input now, you can see that you can get multiple elements. So we've got 2 in here now, those 2. So that's the basics of selecting elements with JavaScript. Now you should really be storing these in a variable, basically caching them, so that you don't have to keep selecting them from the DOM every time. You can just use the variable to modify them. So we're going to be doing inputs Okay, so we've got basically the same results. That's selecting elements in JavaScript. Now if you're familiar with jQuery, let's add that in there. You can select it by different things, like attributes, so we do data test. Let's try this. We're going to select this element by the data test. This is jQuery. So we would do data test equals hi. Let's have a look. And we've got one input in there, so we can select it by the data test in jQuery. However, you can't do that with the provided JavaScript method. You would have to make a function yourself. So I suppose we could make a quick one just to see how things work. I haven't got anything planned for this, but hopefully we'll go as planned. So we need to make a function that will get the element by the data attribute, although we shouldn't really be doing this. We should be just adding an ID for the best performance. But why not? So we can create a function called get elements by attribute, yeah? Okay, so now to do this we would have to select every element on the page and then filter through all of them just to see what data attributes they have got. I don't know how jQuery does this, but I presume this would be how they would do it. So we're going to select all the elements on the page, and we could do that by create a variable called elements. And what we could do, we could select all the elements on the page by the tag name. I'll show them document.get elements by tag name, and we've got a little star in there, and that means it's going to get all of the elements. And if we put document.body, actually, we'll get all the elements in the body because we don't want the head tags or anything. So we should just quickly check this just to see what we've got. We've got the result we want. Debug elements. Just call this function. Okay, so we've got all of the elements on the page. We'll just quickly add another one. We've got our div in there now. So now we've got all of our elements. We can filter through these now to see if they've got the attribute that we need. So for this example, we're not going to be checking the value. We're just going to be checking that it has the attribute, whether the value is whatever. So what we could do is, you can see the length here, we've got a length here which is 3. We can use this to loop through all of the elements. So basically what we would do, we would create a for loop, and in there we can create a variable called I, or anything you want. We can set that equal to 0. And then if the I variable is less than the length of the elements, then we want to add 1 plus to the I, and then continue through everything that's in the for loop. So if we just check this now, console.debug I, just to see how many we've looping through 3, so you can modify the elements by this. So you can use I on the elements like this. So you can, if we console.debug elements I, then that should show us the elements in order. We've got our pre, our input, and our div. So in each of these, we are working with one of these elements, so we can check through the attributes. I'm going to create a variable now called current, so it's just going to refer to the current element, and that is element I. And we'll also create an array which will hold all the elements we find that have the attribute. So we can create an if statement, and we can say if the current elements get the attribute we're just going to do a test one for now. Date test. Console.debug true. So see how many we get of these. So we're getting one true, that's because only one of our elements has the date and test attribute. So basically what we can do with this now, this current element, we can push into that array and return the array. So we can do elements array dot push current. So basically let's run through this again. So we've got all the elements, we've created an array to hold the ones that we found. So we're going to loop through all the elements. If the current element has an attribute of data test, we're going to push that element into the array. So after we've looped through all of them, we can just check the result we've got. We're doing console.debug elements array. Let's see the result. Okay, so we've got an array with one input, and that is the one with the data test. So if we add data test to this one, we might have to give it a value then. We get both elements that have the data test attribute. Now, if we want this to be dynamic, we would have to pass that attribute parameter into here. Now if we do this again, we shouldn't get any result because we haven't passed anything in here. We might even get an error. You know, we've got a blank array. So what we need to do now is just pass our data test into here. Let's run that, and we've got the same result. So basically, that so you create your own little function that will get custom elements, basically. We should take a little look at modifying these elements now. We just return that elements array now, so then we can hold that in a variable. So now we've created that, we can create a variable called